In the beginning, the legendary hero defeats the Demon King and enters the Hero Academy as an ordinary student. After eating the knife, the others are on their way back to the academy to get a bucket of pudding when they see a wagon stuck on the road. Ernest tells the woman pulling the wagon to go to the highway if she can't get through. This Ernest then realizes that the woman is a centaur, and the blade recognizes her as Donnie. DNA tries to summon the great hero Blade. They tell each other which knife they have, and then they say that it is Deanne and Blake have known each other for a long time. She tries very hard not to call Blade the Grey Hero. Then Blade asks Deanne what she plans to do with this cargo. He tells her that he would be happy to help her if she wants. Deanne says she would appreciate their help, and asks if they are part of Blade's party. Blade says they are his friends, and they then help Deanne get the cargo to where it needs to go. They find out that the cargo was the king's, and Diana says that she has finished her job. The king tells her that he has her next job ready, and that Deanne will be teaching at Rosewood Academy starting today. Ernest thinks this is out of the blue, and the king says that she is more than qualified to be their teacher, and that Blade should be aware of her skills. The scene then cuts to the advanced class watching Diane. They see some god iron blocks in front of her. Diane uses a spirit to break through all of the god iron blocks, which makes Sophie think that god iron shouldn't be broken, then says that she has warmed up enough, and that they should start class. Blade says that Diane should talk about herself first, and then Diane talks about herself by saying her title. The bad guy hearing her name, Lance. Ernest wonders if she is General Deanne, who is in charge of the top cavalry corps. The others can't believe that someone with so much experience is going to be their teacher. Ernest asks Diane if she has ever seen the great hero fight in person. Diane says that she is nothing compared to the great hero. Deanne says that this happened a long time ago, which makes Ernest wonder how someone like her Nosebleed could still be alive. The scene then cuts to Blade washing Ku's hair, and he tells Ku to stop moving around. Then we see that the DNA is taking a bath, and that Jessica and Claire are washing themselves her back. DNA thinks that taking a hot bath is a great way to relax. When Jessica asks her if she has known Blade for a long time, Dion says that they just met. Ernest said the other day that Deanne told him that they've known each other for a long time. Jessica says she'd like to hear more about what Blade was like in the past, and Maria says she'd be interested in hearing that as well. Blade then comes in, and Ernest asks why he's just barging in like nothing's wrong. Blade says he's here to wash Ku's hair, and Jessica says they don't have to worry about him as much. Mentally he is only 5 years old. Diane says she met Blade when he was only 5 years old, and Mao says she would love to hear more about this. The scene then changes to Diane telling the girls that when she met Blade he was mean like a wild animal, and thought she was a horse, so he bit her behind. Diana says that she didn't know much back then, which is true. Just one step away from being dinner, she trained her body for a few years until she was strong enough to help the Grey Hero. East can't believe that Deanne has fought with the Grey Hero, and Sophie tells Blade to calm down because no one has figured out that Diana is talking about him. Deanne then says that she even let the Grey Hero ride on her back, but the Great Hero wouldn't let her join him in his fight against the Demon King, couldn't serve him to the end, and he took it as a sign of weakness, so now he's trying to train himself more. Blade asks Sophie if she's sure no one noticed that the Grey Hero is much older than Sophie. He says he's sure what the others are thinking. He says it's their secret, and the knife Mao and Sophie's fading made him find it out. Several days later, Ernest and Blade are shopping in town, and Ernest sees a Seamorg flying over town. Blade wonders what it is, and Knife says he won't attack them if they don't get angry. Seymour then attacks the wagon, which makes Ernest think he needs to stop. Knife tells him to control his fighting spirit. Seymour then takes off, and they see that there are two of them. They wonder if they are lovers, and Blake thinks it almost looked like they were after the wagon. Blake thinks that the king might have something to do with this, so the scene cuts to Ernest asking the king what he has been hiding from them. The king wants to know why they are so sure this is about him. Blade tells the king that the Seamorg attacked a wagon, and Diane was pulling a wagon at the time. Ernest asks the king the other day what was in that wagon, and what did the king say it was. Ernest can't believe the king stole A.C. Morgan's egg, and the king says he only needed it for a short time. Blade says that this has made the egg's parents angry. The king's assistant tells him that he should explain the situation in detail because the king is very angry. The king then says that there are two things that must happen for a Seymour's egg to hatch. The first is to keep the egg at the same height as the sacred tree that is 10,000 years old, and the second is to let the setting sun shine on it at the moment the egg is about to hatch. He says that the parents aren't very good at making nests, and they chose a bad spot for it, so the egg wouldn't have hatched if left alone. Ernest realizes that the king is trying to help them, and the king says that this is just a cover story because he thought it would be good training for his students. The king then says that it's true that the egg won't hatch at this rate, and as heroes they should save that crow. He says that the egg should hatch tomorrow, and the next day Blade will tell everyone what their plan is. He says that the goal of this fight is not to win but to buy time until the sun goes down so they can hide the egg from the parents. He says that the parents are so worried that they might even break the egg if they find it. It says that they will hide the egg until the last minute, and then take it to the top of the tower using the elevator. By doing this the egg will hatch. And Blade tells them to have faith in themselves. Claire asks what they should do if they don't believe in themselves, and Blake says it's okay if they don't see his faith in them. They then start the operation. And we see that the Simorgh is attacking another wagon. The students say that they don't have to worry about the people in this area because they have already left. Leonard then tries to attack the Simorgh with his lance, but the Simorgh flies away. Then Clay saves Jessica from the Simorgh's attack, and Jessica attacks, but her attack has no effect on the Simorgh. The other students then use wires made of god iron to try to pin the Simorgh to the buildings around them, but the Simorgh flies away with the buildings. Then we see that Claire is helping the injured, and a Simorgh tries to attack her. Ku saves her, but even Cool can't beat it. Maria then changes into Mao and tries to attack the Simorgh as Mao, but even her attack doesn't hurt it. Then Ernest uses Simorgh's demon mode to attack her, which kills her. The scene then cuts to the students carrying the egg up to the tower. Evening, but the lift stops about halfway up. The Simorgh then notices the egg, so the others tell Blade to get to the egg while they take care of the Simorgh. They tell Blade to trust them on his way to the egg. Blade meets Dione, who asks him to ride on her back. Blade says the Dione isn't supposed to help them, and Diane told the king not to help him, but to allow the knife to ride on his back, saying that his hands did not require the knife. Then he told them to let his friends take care of him, and go on, and he said that this made him think of a lot of things from back then. Dione says that Blade is no longer alone, and Blade says that he was the only one fighting the Demon Lord, but that he now has a lot of friends including Diane. Blade then tries to carry the egg to the top of the tower, but it's too heavy for him to carry alone. Dione pushes Blade and the egg up the tower, and the king is there to greet them at the finish line. The other Simorgh then tries to get the egg, and the king tells him that it's his turn to shine now. He tells Simorgh that a life owed will be paid back by a new life, and he says that he will pay Simorgh back for being his assistant. Then he says that the king was once saved by a Simorgh, and that thanks to Blade he can finally pay back his debt. Then Blade tells the king that he should have told him this sooner, and they see that the Simorgh is getting more angry. Sophie uses her fake superpowers to stop the Simorgh, and Blade uses his Dragon Eater attack to kill it. This kills both Blade and Sophie, and the Simorgh then lays 2 eggs. Blade doesn't know why the twins are staring at him, but Sophie says it's because they're making an impression of him as their parent. Ernest can't believe that Blade now has even more kids, and a few days later he and Knife Morgan's Ernest is having trouble driving in the baby's back, so Knife tells him to fly as much as he wants to Seymour, who thinks he's made more friends now.